This is version 45 of the competitive Brawl Stars tier list. We've had a little bit of time to test out the new balance changes, the new hypercharges, which means it's time to rank every brawler from worst to best. Wow, that's an uncomfortable... Anyway, whatever. Before we continue, I just have to brag just a little bit, just to hear me out here. A few years ago, when I was involved in the tier list, it was terrible. People gave me all the comments and the feedback saying, Kairos, you don't know what you're talking about. And they were right, because I am not a pro. So I did something that completely changed everything. I got all the pro players' feedback and I didn't touch it at all. I had a semi-pro player, Moxie, who's been working on my team for a few years now, and he took all of their feedback and compiled it into the most accurate tier list available. Since then, sure, we've missed like a few placements here or there, but the tier list has been pretty awesome. So massive shout out to all the pro players who gave their feedback for this tier list, as well as to Moxie. His Twitch is in the link in the description below. You guys can check him out. Okay, let's start off with the worst brawlers. F tier. Oh, these ones are bad. Starting off, we have Jesse moving from the D tier down to the F tier, the worst brawler in the game. Oh no. Jesse didn't get any nerfs, but there are just too many better options for pretty much every single map for Jesse to be ever played right now. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Some of you guys are like, what? Heist? Come on, you can play Jesse competitively in Heist, not at the pro player level. You just can't. No. Pro players will shut her down. Now, if you're in the lower ranks and you're just hanging out, cool, whatever. You can play Jesse in Heist, but otherwise, give it up, okay? I'm talking to myself because I keep trying to play her in Heist, and once you reach like Legendary, she falls off hard. Next, we have Edgar moving from the D tier down into the F tier as well. Oh man, these are two brawlers that I actually used to play and ranked quite a bit, which is funny. But yeah, Edgar's back to being one of the easiest brawlers in the game to counter. He's not even very strong, even if he isn't being countered. Again, if you're in low tier ranked or you're not pushing competitively, Edgar might be doing just fine for you, but I'm here to tell you, later on, he falls off hard. Next, we have the D tier brawlers. These ones are also not competitive options. However, they're not as bad as the F tier brawlers. BB is staying in the D tier. BB didn't receive any changes this update. She's just very weak right now compared to other close range brawlers in the game. Clancy's actually moving from the F tier up into the D tier. Clancy's hypercharge was not released when the last tier list was made, and while it did make him better, and he was really a monster in Brawl Arena. We're not including Brawl Arena. We're including all the ranked modes, and he just still takes way too long to level up to be really effective in most of those shorter modes. Colt is staying in the D tier. Colt is still only used on certain maps because of his high DPS, but other than that, there's really not much of a use for him. Ems is moving from the C tier down to the D tier. There's lots of aggressive brawlers that Ems can't really play super well against, and those brawlers have moved to the top of the meta, so Ems is being used a lot less competitively. Grom is moving from the C tier down into the D tier. Grom was being played a little bit more when his hypercharge released, but due to the increase of strong, aggressive brawlers in the game, throwers in general are struggling a little bit more right now. Nani is moving from the C tier down into the D tier. Nani has decent stats, but it's still just too hard to land shots on brawlers in order to deal consistent damage, especially against high mobility brawlers, so Nani's just worse than before. Stam is staying in the D tier. Stam received a buff to his hypercharge rate, but it still seems like it was just way too difficult for you to charge it, and he's about where he was on the last tier list, honestly. Rosa is moving from the F tier up into the D tier. She received the buff to her damage, and while she's now at least playable, she's still one of the weakest tanks in the game. Okay, now we got the C tier brawlers. Once again, not competitive options, except for in some very few situations. And even then, there's almost always better choices. Like, you can force them into competitive play if you're good in the right situation with the right teammates, but otherwise it's just not worth it. And Chuck is actually moving from the D tier up into the C tier. Chuck is still really only good for Heist, but he's a little bit better now than with the current meta, and he's getting a hypercharge soon. So honestly, his usability might actually go up into the B tier for Heist, I mean, he'd be S tier for Heist, but like overall. Anyway, you get the idea. Still not great, and the pro players have done a really good job at learning how to play against him, which is why he's not being used even in competitive Heist very often. Mo is moving from the B tier down into the C tier. Mo's hypercharge has not been released yet, so he'll be better than he is right now, but for the time being, his stats are just sort of weak overall. Miko is staying in the C tier. No changes were made to Miko this update. He's still just as good as he has been in the last tier list. The one game mode he can be somewhat decent is in Heist, which competitively sometimes people are playing him Heist and sometimes he dominates, but Sometimes. Fang is moving from the D tier up into the C tier. Fang received a buff to his super damage, and he's being played a lot more now, but he can still be countered pretty easily. El Primo is staying in the C tier. El Primo didn't receive any balance changes. He wasn't really affected by any other changes in the meta, so staying in the C tier makes sense. Ruffs is also staying in the C tier. Again, no balance changes. He's not being played any more or less than before. Brock is staying in the C tier. Brock's actually slightly worse than before due to a more aggressive meta, but not much to move him down the rank. Dynamite is staying in the C tier. Similar to other throwers, Dynamite really struggles to land his shots on a lot of the top brawlers right now, so he's not super good competitively at the moment, which is unfortunate for you Dynamite lovers. I know how much you love Dynamite, but he's not good all the time, unless you're Lukey Bear, and then he's good all the time. Eve is staying in the C tier. She didn't receive any balance changes. Her stats are still a little bit below average, although she is a good choice for some long-range maps when there's some water on the ground. But yeah, other than that, not too much use at the moment. Gale is staying in the C tier. Now, he did receive a small buff to his supercharge rate, but it didn't really affect him like at all, and his stats are kind of a little bit below average, so he's struggling at the moment. Lola is moving from the A tier down into the C tier. Lola actually didn't get nerfed at all, but the way that the meta shifted has really hurt Lola, and the map pool also isn't super great for her as well. Mandy's moving from the B tier down into the C tier. I have no problems with this. I hate playing against Mandy, so I hope that more of you guys listen and stop playing her. She's actually a decent brawler on certain maps that are open, but she struggles a lot with close range brawlers right now, and a lot of those brawlers are actually strong at the moment, so she's struggling. Nita's moving them from the B tier down into the C tier. She didn't receive any balance changes, and not only have her counters become stronger, but the map pool is also not in her favor at the moment. Otis is moving from the B tier down into the C tier. Now, Otis has always been a solid counter to assassins, but his stats are so low right now that even the top assassins don't really struggle too much against him unless he's already charged up his hypercharge. And in that case, then, well, yeah, don't jump on an Otis, but you get the idea. Penny's moving from the B tier down into the C tier. Very similar to Otis, Penny is just too weak overall to compete with the current meta, and she's only decent on certain maps. And man, I really felt that. Trying to push her towards Masters has been rough. Sandy's moving from the B tier down to the C tier. Sandy's another brawler who hasn't received balance changes in a while, and as other brawlers get stronger, he's seeming like he's getting a little bit weaker. Now, Shelly's moving from the D tier up into the C tier. The aggressive meta has actually impacted Shelly in a positive way, since she's actually a decent counter to stop a few of the top brawlers. Don't just play her, but if you draft against some of the top brawlers, she can work well. Sprout is staying in the C tier. Sprout's the next thrower on the list that with an attack that is just too easy to avoid for brawlers with a lot of high mobility, so Sprout's struggling. Surge is staying in the C tier. Surge is still having a difficult time leveling up against a lot of the brawlers in the game, so he's actually a pretty risky play competitively right now. But yeah, if you grok with Surge, then by all means, you go for it. Maisie is moving from the B tier down to the C tier. She's just another C tier brawler that just keeps on getting power crept on with each update that she does not get buffed. Honestly, I'm eager for all the hypercharges to be released into the game. I know that she has a hypercharge, but it just seems like there's just a lot of brawlers that are just getting really strong and shoving everybody else down, you know? Leon's moving from the B tier down into the C tier. Leon is still a decent assassin, but there are so much better options to use right now, so Leon's just not seeing a lot of use. And now it's time for us to go over the B tier. These are competitive options. They are good, especially in the right map mode or to counter certain brawlers or with certain teammates and stuff like that. B tier brawlers, not the most competitive, not everywhere, but good. Kicking us off, we have Tick staying in the B tier. Tick has always been one of the better throwers against aggressive brawlers, but he's still not good against them in this meta. So this isn't like the best meta for Tick at the moment, but you know, you can still play Tick. Spike is staying in the B tier. No changes were made to Spike this update, and while he's a decent brawler, there's hardly ever a good reason to play him. Do you guys remember, like, for years that Spike was an S tier brawler? Literally 4 years. I wish Kairos from 2 years ago could see Spike today. RT is staying in the B tier. RT's hypercharge hasn't been released, but it looks like it's going to be a very strong one, so he probably won't stay in the B tier for very long. But yeah, whenever it gets released, I guess we'll see RT going up. Poco is staying in the B tier. Poco's a pretty good support for the top brawlers, but he himself gets countered really hard by most of them, so he's not being played very much at the moment. Pearl is staying in the B tier. She didn't receive any balance changes, and she's still just an all-around average brawler with a little bit of good use in knockout. Pam is moving from the B tier down into, or sorry, A tier down into the B tier. Similar to Pearl, Pam has very average stats, isn't particularly good or bad. Mortis is staying in the B tier. As usual, Mortis is very good at countering a select few few brawlers in the game, but can easily get countered by a lot of them. So never pick Mortis as your first pick. Use him as a last pick if it's safe for you to pick Mortis. Max is moving from the A tier down into the B tier. Just like Poco, Max is really good at supporting some of the top brawlers right now, but doesn't do too well by herself because of her close range. Colette is staying in the B tier. Colette is still a decent tank counter, but doesn't have the damage output to be one of the top brawlers at the moment. Daryl is staying in the B tier. Daryl's kind of like Mortis because he can be unstoppable against certain brawlers, but it can also take a long time for him to charge his super, and he also feeds a lot of super to the enemy, meaning they hit him, they charge their super, and then they kill him. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to be careful when you're playing brawlers that feed the enemy really frequently, and so Daryl's struggling. 8-Bit is staying in the B tier. 8-Bit is still has great range and DPS, but he's struggling to hit brawlers in this meta because they're just so dang fast. Belle is staying in the B tier. Belle's a great sharpshooter, but most sharpshooters are struggling in this meta for the same reason that throwers are. Aggressive brawlers that can close the gap and get in on them. Bo is moving from the A tier down into the B tier. Bo is actually significantly worse in this update simply because of how many of the top brawlers can just easily avoid his mines or pop them because they're fast, or they can jump over them, or they can dash over them, or whatever. Willow is staying in the B tier. Willow might be even a little bit better than Tick against aggressive brawlers, but she's still a thrower, which means that in this stage of the game, she's struggling a little bit. Buzz is staying in the B tier. Buzz is a decent assassin, but he's much easier to counter than other assassins, which is why he's struggling. Byron is staying in the B tier. Byron's still a good healer, but he's just another sharpshooter, who is slightly worse than he was before because of the brawlers that are strong at the moment. Like, the thing is with Byron is you can get a couple of shots on somebody, but then it takes time for them to kill you, which means that he's a really good target for assassins, especially ones who can heal up after they've taken him out. Carl, oh my gosh, has moved from the S tier down to the B tier. Carl had a nerf in this last update to his gadget, and he also got hurt by this meta shift a lot, which sucks because on my skin locked account, I really doubled down on upgrading Carl, and he's just not holding up like he was. Frank is moving from the A tier down into the B tier. Frank didn't receive any balance changes, and a lot of his counters have kind of risen up to the top of the tier list right now. You can still play him sometimes, but I wouldn't play him all the time. Jackie is staying in the B tier. Oh man, you guys remember when Jackie was like F tier for so long? She's actually received a nerf to her health, and while she's definitely worse than before, she's still good at what she's supposed to do, and she remains a B tier brawler, not an F tier anymore. Man, getting a hypercharge really changed things for her. Janet is moving from the A tier down to the B tier. Janet just doesn't deal enough damage anymore to keep up with the current meta of really like high HP brawlers. Larry and Laurie are staying in the B tier. They didn't receive any balance changes, and despite being a thrower with no hypercharge, they have somehow managed to maintain their same spot on the tier list as the last update. Once they get a hypercharge, oh my gosh, I'm not looking forward to that. Or maybe I am looking forward to that. Evil Kairos eyes. Kit's moved from the A tier down into the B tier. Kit used to be good at like doubling as both a support brawler and an assassin brawler, but now he's really only being used as a support brawler. And that versatility has kind of kept him off his radar. Like, it's just so risky to jump on somebody when their teammates can attack Kit because Kit's just sitting there doing nothing. Granted, the hypercharge might actually change that, so we'll have to wait and see. Squeak's moving from the A tier down to the B tier. Squeak's a pretty safe choice, but he does not deal with close range brawlers very well, so this meta is really hurting him. Meeple's moving from the A tier down to the B tier. Man, there's a lot of meta brawlers that are moving down. So Meeple doesn't really have the DPS to keep up with these tankier, fast-moving brawlers, so he's definitely getting countered more by brawlers and spawners. Speaking of spawners, we got Mr. P moving from the A tier down to the B tier. Mr. P is a good counter to brawlers with single projectiles, but he can't do very much against assassins, and he doesn't deal a lot of damage by himself, so he's struggling more. Piper is staying in the B tier. Like most other sharpshooters, there just isn't a very good reason to even use Piper right now, even on open maps. And like, it's interesting because like, oh wow, I'm like reminiscing so much today.
Back in my day in Brawl Stars, Brock and Piper were the OP sharpshooters. But then these new dang-fangled brawlers with their increased range and their high damage and escapability came in, and Angelo can move on water. What is it with that?
Sorry, I don't know what that was. I'm okay though. Cordelius is staying in the B tier. Cordelius received a slight buff to his health, but he's still actually really close to where he was in the last update on this tier list. Barry's moving from the A tier down to the B tier. Barry's a great support brawler, right? But just like other throwers, the aggressive meta has really hurt him quite a bit. Griff is moving from the C tier up into the B tier. This is partly to do with Griff receiving a hypercharge. He's actually pretty balanced now. And it's funny, I'm actually not liking this. As a Griff main, Griff was always available for me to play in ranked, and he got his hypercharge, and now people either ban him or they play him, and I can't play Griff as much as I like to. Honestly, I think the pros don't know. They're sleeping on Griff. Trust me, he's S tier. Definitely. Yeah, 100%. Ollie's moving from the A tier down to the B tier. After several nerfs from past updates, Ollie is now a pretty average tank. Still very viable in plenty of situations. I mean, man, watching him be played by some of the pros is just insane. Like, he can be really good, but it really does take a skilled player to take advantage of Ollie's skills. Crow is staying in the B tier. Crow received a buff to his health, and while he's still a B tier brawler, he's actually a lot better now. Terra is staying in the B tier. No changes were made to Terra. She's actually pretty good at countering lots of the aggressive brawlers right now, so can be used definitely. Rico is staying in the B tier. Rico's still really only good on certain maps, and he might even be slightly worse than before because of this meta shift, but still playable. Stu is moving from the A tier down into the B tier. Lots of the brawlers that Stu is really good at playing against aren't being played as much, so he's not being played quite as much. Bull, oh my gosh, he's moving from the F tier all the way up into the B tier. Bull had some major reworks, and all of that made him way better than before. You know what? And it's interesting. There were some oversights, I think, with Bull originally, and the community made a big stink about it, and Supercell listened. They fixed him, and now he's actually pretty good. Gotta love it when that happens, you know? Community makes a stink about something. Brawl Stars fixes it. Next up, we have the A tier brawlers. These brawlers are competitive options. They're good in a lot of different situations right now, either because of the current meta, they're good at countering certain brawlers, or they're just really good overall because of their stats. Ashe is staying in the A tier. Ashe is our first close range brawler in the A tier and is actually probably slightly worse than before, but still a great brawler. Meg is staying in the A tier. She's one of the few brawlers that didn't get any balance changes, but is actually doing better in this meta just because of how fast she can melt through the tanks and assassins. Jean is staying in the A tier. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised because of the aggressive meta, but I mean, I have learned to trust the pros here. So Jean's not quite as good in this meta, but his super is still game-changing enough to keep him in the A tier. Once again, I assume that this is because of knockout and gem grab, but yeah, I don't know. Trunk is starting out his debut in the A tier. Now, Trunk has a couple of disclaimers, okay? Trunk, or new brawlers that the pro players have not had a chance to play with, is the one time when I do take a little bit of liberty in placing the brawlers because we have so little experience with him, and I've played him on the developer build. I've made a few update videos on him. He's going to be released in a couple of weeks by the time this video comes out, and so take this placement with a grain of salt, but even the pros agree, watching the footage and seeing him, that he looks pretty strong. Either way, he's got a lot of stats, and in this meta I could see him being pretty decent, so A tier seems to be a safe placement for him. Sometimes I do just get new brawler placements completely off though, so take it with a grain of salt. That's such an interesting phrase. Take it with a grain of salt. Like, what? Like, where did that come from? I should probably look it up. Lou is staying in the A tier. Lou struggles against some assassins, but he's actually one of the best counters to tanks in the game, which is why he's doing well right now. Melody is staying in the A tier. Melody's definitely one of the best heist brawlers in the game, and she's also good in other modes and on certain maps. Juju is staying in the A tier. Juju received a nerf to her supercharge rate, and that was not enough to dethrone her from being the best thrower in the game. Chester's moving from the S tier down to the A tier. Oh, I am so happy with that. Chester actually received a nerf to his supercharge rate, and even though he's still not S tier, he's still very, very strong. He's just not going to have his supers up quite as frequently. Gray is staying in the A tier. Gray is one of the best brawlers in the game to support aggressive brawlers because he can just put his portal somewhere, and then all that has to happen is like Jackie can go on there and just boom, she's right up in your face. That's scary. So really good support brawler with the right team. B is staying in the A tier. Now, even though B is a sharpshooter, she's still a good brawler right now just because of how well she counters tanks. She's more an anti-tank brawler than an actual sharpshooter. I do personally like to play her as a sharpshooter. And I know that the comment section doesn't always like when I do that, but that's what I like to do. So I'm going to keep doing it until she fails me. Barley is staying in the A tier. Barley is currently, oh man. Oh, what was I saying about Juju? I thought she was, oh, she's the queen of the throwers. Barley's the king. He is currently the best thrower in the game, even in this aggressive meta, just because of how much area control he has, as long as his teammates can protect him. He does heavily rely on a couple of good teammates. And I have learned this the hard way in some hot zone matches where like I'm just dominating, but I keep getting killed by assassins because my teammates aren't watching what they're doing. Anyway, you get the idea. Always blame your randoms. You are never at fault. That's what I'm trying to teach you here. Obviously, don't live by that, but it's fun to joke, right? Amber is staying in the A tier. Amber has one of the easiest range attacks to land in the game, and she actually does a lot of damage, so she's probably going to be A tier until she gets a nerf, I think. Oh my gosh, Doug is moving from the F tier all the way up into the A tier. Doug is another brawler that actually received some crazy reworks, and while he is not in the S tier, he is one of the best tanks in the game. Oh man, that is mind-blowing me away. The pros, man, putting him all the way out there, they've got to know something about Doug that I do not know, because that's just like, I guess his hypercharge is really good at supporting other brawlers, and you got to leave it to the pros, man. The pros are so good at playing with teammates, so clearly they're just better than all of us. Buster is staying in the A tier. Buster is a short range brawler that can basically play it on any map because of his super. Angelo is staying in the A tier. Angelo is definitely the best sharpshooter in the game right now because of how strong he is, even at point blank, and he can't really easily be countered. Honestly, I think a big reason for this, after actually trying to learn and play Angelo, it comes down to how fast he is, man. His speed is so good. Jae Young is staying in the A tier. He not only gives his team tons of healing and speed, but he deals good damage by himself as well. Finks is staying in the A tier. Finks has a very powerful super, and his overall stats are just really good, so A tier makes sense. Kenji's moving from the S tier down into the A tier. Kenji quickly received nerfs to his hypercharge, but it's still probably one of the best in the game, so he's still a great brawler. Lily is moving from the C tier all the way up into the A tier. Her hypercharge hadn't been released last update, and that alone made her one of the best assassins in the game. Bonnie is staying in the A tier. Bonnie was really good after her rework last update, and now that she has a really strong hypercharge, she's even better. Charlie is moving from the B tier up into the A tier. She got a huge range buff, and she's back to being a very strong counter to tanks and assassins. Last time her range was this long, she was really strong, like overpowered. But now we have the S tier brawlers, the best of the best. These are the ones you're going to see in competitive matches over and over and over again, if they're not banned, which most of the time they are. Kicking us off, we have Ali, the newest brawler currently playable in the game. Ali actually had some major emergency nerfs before she was even released, and she's still a very strong assassin, but she's still pretty map dependent, even for an S tier brawler, so keep that in mind. Though on the right map, man, she's just gnarly. Hank is staying in the S tier. Hank received a slight nerf to his shield gadget, but he is still extremely hard to take down, especially with the good support on his team. It's actually kind of funny because the first time Hank was in the S tier, people thought that we were crazy. And then they watched the monthly qualifiers or whatever, and then they were like, oh, tier list is not crazy, Hank's good. Gus has moved from the B tier up into the S tier. Gus actually received a slight nerf this update, but he probably benefited from this meta more than any other brawler in the game. His shield and heals are making these tanks and assassins really hard to deal with. Shade, oh, it's moving from the B tier all the way up into the S tier. Oh, I hate seeing this, man. I hate facing off against a good Shade. Shade received his hypercharge, and it instantly made him one of the best brawlers in the game. He's just so good. I'm really not liking facing him. Draco's moved from the C tier all the way up into the S tier. This is 100% because of his absolutely broken hypercharge. His hypercharge is easily the most broken one released this update. And now he's just the best tank in the game, man. Lumi is staying in the S tier. Lumi was already one of the best brawlers in the game, and now that she has a very strong hypercharge, she's kind of unstoppable. Oh, she's good. But we still have the best brawler in the game, and that is Kaze, staying in the S tier, the first and only ultra legendary brawler. Now, Kaze received some buffs after she was released, and I guess they were just too strong, because now she can be played on any map against any brawler, and she still plays well even when you're trying to counter her. And there you go. That is every brawler ranked from worst to best. Make sure if you screenshot that and you share it anywhere, include my face in there. Don't forget to use code Kairos in the Brawl Stars shop. Once again, I want to give a huge shout out to all the pro players to help create this tier list. Their feedback, all organized by Moxie, a semi-pro player, has really made this tier list the cream of the crop. It is just so good. So massive, huge thank you to them. I really appreciate all of their hard work on this. Genuinely, I love using the tier list when I am drafting and picking. It is so helpful. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below if there's any balance changes you would want to add in the game, because yeah, personally, I'm wanting some Jesse buffs. Yes, please. Thank you guys so much for watching this and for supporting the tier list as much as you guys have in the past. Really do appreciate all of your support. For now, this is KairosTime ticking by, and we will see you in Brawl Stars.